Thanks for joining us tonight at 10. The Columbus Redevelopment Authority has a new tool to repurpose the Burns Bottom area. City Council gave the organization the green light to start the eminent domain process, if necessary, to acquire some properties. There are about 12 lots, most of them vacant, that have not been sold to the CRA. CRA President John Acker tells WCBI the group wants to remove blighted areas and enhance the tax base. Ideally, the organization would get the area prepped for a developer to buy the land and create a residential development. Acker says eminent domain may not be needed for every purchase, but could be an option to move the four-year project along. The race for the Republican nomination for governor is turning into a competition to see who can out-conservative the others. Courtney Ann Jackson breaks down how this is playing out in the three GOP campaigns.
There's a buzzword in the GOP primary for governor.
Conservative.
Millsaps professor Dr. Nathan Schrader.
Rushing to embrace conservatism, but maybe define it the way they want it to be defined, or the way they perceive Mississippi voters as defining conservatism, which right now looks like this sharp adherence to these culture war issues.
Most recently, Robert Foster invoked the Billy Graham rule in response to a ride-along request from a female journalist. That rule being that he wouldn't be alone with a woman other than his wife. Bill Waller, when asked, said he follows that same rule in personal and private life.
Not necessarily surprised, though, that this is where this race is at this moment. Maybe this is not the issue that I expected us to be talking about, but I think you're looking at a competitive Republican primary and a state with a conservative Republican Party. They're going to try to one-up one another to prove that they are the true conservative candidate.
Meanwhile, Tate Reeves has taken on issues with his ads like the one supporting In God We Trust on the state license plates and highlighting Mississippians' values are different than those of, quote, Hollywood and coastal elite.
Those other two candidates may be trying to eat into the support maybe Tate Reeves has already cultivated on those culture war issues.
While it does follow a national trend for GOP races, Schrader says there is one concern.
It does shortchange the need to address these other issues that affect Mississippians on a daily basis.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
New tonight, a search warrant in Lowndes County leads to 2 arrests. This afternoon, the Lowndes County Narcotics Task Force went to serve a search warrant for Corey Mixon and Scotty Cook at a home on Black Creek Road. Captain Archie Williams says the men refused to come out. After several demands, Cook finally came out. However, Mixon tried to hide in a hole under the home. Both men were arrested and are being charged with possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. The Mississippi Highway Patrol and U.S. Marshals assisted in that investigation. Alabama state troopers are investigating the death of a Starkville man after a head-on collision. 23-year-old Toby T.J. Minotti died in the Highway 45 crash near Centinel. The Alabama law enforcement agency says Minotti's Ford Fusion and a log truck hit head-on. The log truck went up in flames. WKRG reports the driver of the big rig, Gene Washington, also died in that accident. The National Transportation Safety Board releases its preliminary report in the fatal plane crash that killed 18-year-old Lake Little. According to the report, a witness heard no unusual sounds from the engine. The Cessna 172 crashed on the Ole Miss golf course. A fixed base operator at University Oxford Airport told investigators that Little sounded panicked and didn't finish her sentences as she said she intended to land on a runway. A witness saw the plane approach as a tailwind blew. The plane climbed at a steep angle before going down. Little got her student pilot certificate in August of 2017. Deputies, they get an eyeful in Yalobusha County after a man walks out of the woods stark naked. Christopher Nelson now faces several drug possession charges. Sheriff Lance Humphreys says deputies were called by an Army Corps of Engineers park ranger after seeing Nelson walking around in a towel at Hickory Ridge near Enid Lake. When the ranger tried to speak to Nelson, he reportedly ran into the woods. Deputies tried to get the man to reveal himself and threatened to bring out their canine. That's when they say Nelson came out of the woods naked. He allegedly had medicine bottles with pills and meth. Nelson is in the Yalobusha County Detention Center. Time now to get a first look at our forecast. We'll send things over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson. Hey there, Keith.
Well, Scott, we are looking at some clouds here with our Alpha Insurance time lapse from Tupelo earlier today. We saw some heavy rain in around Tupelo this morning. This afternoon, though, not really a lot of action going on. Currently very warm. 80 degrees, a bright moon shining overhead. The dew point 76, so it just feels muggy out there. Just to our north, though, in West Tennessee, a big complex of storms moving more southeast than south. But as these move south and southeast, we could see a shower or two try to sneak into North Mississippi later tonight in a much weakened state. Can't rule that out. Most spots won't see it. Tomorrow, 93, a few storms possible, but the heat will be the big story, perhaps with a heat index over 105. More coming up.
The next generation of workforce training development is weeks away from its first day. This fall, East Mississippi Community College's Communiversity will welcome its first class. Our Quentin Smith, he got a tour of the brand new facility. And Quentin, this project, it's been underway for quite a while.
Yeah, Scott, construction actually just wrapped up on this project not too long ago, and behind me is the finished product. Now, people can see this state-of-the-art facility as they drive along Highway 82 here in Lowndes County. Earlier today, I spoke with two future students who have big plans for their future. They tell me the experience they get here at the Communiversity will be a stepping stone to making their dreams come true. When classes begin this fall at the Communiversity, incoming freshman Marquavius Guido will be one of the hundreds of students walking through the doors.
See, I wasn't going to go to college at first, but, you know, I had looked into some things that I can take up, like a trade, so I just came and got a skill.
He knew learning a trade was the first step towards accomplishing his long-term goal.
I came for electrical technology so I could learn how to wire houses.
See, his long-term goal involves his younger brother, Jatwan Rogers, who's also an incoming freshman.
Me and my brother Guido trying to get our own electrical business.
So the two saw East Mississippi Community College's Communiversity as the perfect starting point.
I'm looking forward to finishing the program, get my certificate, and getting my associate degree.
The Communiversity offers students a chance to get hands-on experience operating all of the machinery that's used by area industries.
Be doing everything from learning what hand tools are, how to use hand tools, wiring, industrial motor controls, fluid power, machining, robotics, mechatronics like the machine you see behind me, and just a wide variety of different subjects and skills that they'll be learning.
The $42 million facility will house 16 classrooms and 21 high bay learning areas. The college has partnerships with local industries, and school leaders say it's their goal to have students trained to work in those industries once they graduate.
The training spaces within it are a draw that we have never had as a career technical program before, and the opportunities for students to train and get jobs in this area that are well-paying jobs is tremendous.
Now, school leaders say they want the Communiversity to serve as an example that students can get a good education, develop a trade, and get a good paying job right here at home and not have to move away. Now, I do want to point out, tomorrow is the last day that the public can come out and get a tour of this new facility. Tours will begin tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning and will last until 8 p.m. We're live in Columbus tonight. Quentin Smith, WCBI News.
A pretty nice sunset here in Sulligent, Alabama, with some of those cirrus clouds overhead. We have some warm weather coming our way. Your full forecast is next.
WCBI First Alert AccuWeather Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
10:11 on our Wednesday evening, all quiet here. That's a live view with our Doppler radar. No issues here in the near term, but we are watching some showers and storms here in West Tennessee. A lot of that will be going off to our northeast, but the tail end of that in a much weakened state could slip across the state line later tonight. Can't rule out a stray shower, but most spots will not see it. Clusters of storms from the high plains to Minnesota to the mid-Atlantic here this evening. More storm reports today: wind, hail, tornadoes. The little red icons there across the high plains, those tornado reports. We haven't had a day in the United States without a storm report since April 1st. So it's been pretty busy for the last couple of months. And the severe weather bullseye across the Great Lakes tomorrow and Friday. Now around here, things are settling down after the remnants of Barry. Good riddance, Barry, right? This evening, we are looking at a nearly full moon shining overhead. Yesterday was the full moon, but almost full tonight. It looks like it anyway. That's a live view with our Alpha Insurance Camera Network. It's a great evening to be had. If you've been out and about, you know it is warm, it is sultry, it is a summer night here in the Deep South, and this is what happens around here. And the heat index in some spots still well into the mid-80s. So we do have a heat advisory for the northern half of the area tomorrow. That's the official advisory. Let's just say all spots here will have the opportunity to see the heat index between 100 and 105 or more tomorrow and also Friday. So it's going to be a warm into the work week here across our region and really across most of the eastern 2/3 of the United States going into your weekend. So summer's here. We had a little respite with the remnants of Barry giving us some cooler air our way and also some rain, but now summer's coming on back. We got 70s for lows tonight, and for our day Thursday, 77 at 7 o'clock, low 90s in the afternoon. We're not painting any official thunderstorms there with the icons, but we cannot rule out a stray storm or two across the entire region here. Pretty warm, pretty steamy. Here's Futurecast, and I mentioned there's an opportunity for some of those pop-up storms. Better odds tomorrow. Now, there's actually a little disturbance that is going to be rotating back on through the region, so it will get a little bit closer on Friday. Can't rule out some showers and storms then, but it's really going to punch back into our region as we get into the weekend. So our rain chances will start to go up again Saturday, Sunday, and that will lower the temperatures down into the lower 90s. A cold front moves on in early next week, and that could actually bump us back into the 80s. And if we're lucky, Scott, lower humidity by Wednesday.
A Columbus landmark regains its voice. The Callaway Hall Clock Tower on Mississippi University for Women's Campus is ringing out once again. A series of micro switches has been restored. Now it's unclear when the chimes stopped, but they can now be heard all across campus. President Nora Miller calls the Callaway Clock Tower one of the most recognizable features of campus and Columbus. The structure was originally built in 1860 and underwent restorations in 1885 and 1993. Highway 82 was well represented in Hoover today. The Bulldogs and Bama tackle SEC Media Days. Courtney has the latest coming up later in sports. The summer sun and the summer fun can take a wrong turn if you get too hot. We learn more on the signs you need to watch out for in our Health Talk with Baptist.
What happens when your child gets too hot? With the hot days of summer come summer sports, sports practice, and long days of outside fun in the neighborhood, at school, or at camp. Before you send your children out this summer, learn how to protect your child against the dangers that come with the summer heat. Watch for early signs of dehydration, such as fatigue, thirst, dry lips and tongue, lack of energy, and feeling overheated. But if kids wait to drink until they feel thirsty, they are already dehydrated. In the active child, reduce level of activity after 15 minutes with high heat or humidity. Drink and hydrate prior to and during physical activities. Water or sports drinks should be available at all times. In the event of dizziness, nausea, or lightheadedness, retreat to a cooler environment. Untreated dehydration can lead to 3 worst types of heat illness. Heat cramps, painful cramps of the abdominal muscles, arms, or legs. Heat exhaustion, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, headaches, weakness, muscle pain, and sometimes unconsciousness. Heat stroke, a temperature of 104 degrees or higher, and severe symptoms include nausea and vomiting, seizures, lack of sweating, shortness of breath, unconsciousness, and coma. Both heat exhaustion and heat stroke require immediate medical attention. If untreated, heat stroke can lead to death. Any child with heat stroke should be rushed to the nearest hospital. Join us next time for Health Talk with Baptist, where we'll discuss how much sun exposure is safe for babies and children.
Mail your topic suggestions to healthtalk@wcbi.com. Health Talk has been brought to you by Baptist Memorial Hospital Golden Triangle.
More Alabama Week action is coming up as we check in on the Solent Blue Devils next in sports.
WCBI Sports with Courtney Robb.
One question still remains up in the air leading up to Mississippi State's football season. Who can we expect to fill Nick Fitzgerald's position at starting QB? Will it be Tommy Stevens or Keaton Thompson? Head coach Joe Moorhead saying at SEC Media Days, no decision has been made, and right now it's anyone's spot.
When we get into camp, we'll start doing X's and O's and start letting the guys compete and let the chips fall where they may. Everyone is involved in the competition just like every other position, but conventional wisdom dictates that the guy who's in his 5th year and the guy who's in his 3rd year who have played in some games are going to be the primary contenders. And we'll put a good plan together. They'll get a good amount of reps with the ones and with the twos, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I feel like we're more athletic, and I just feel like, last year we were great, but I feel like we got a chance to do the same thing as we did last year.
It's a new season for Alabama football, but the expectations are the same, winning a national championship. Head coach Nick Saban and junior quarterback Tua Tagovailoa in attendance at SEC Media Days. Saban said after last year's loss to Clemson in the national title game, his team learned some valuable lessons. The Crimson Tide will begin its season with a home game in Tuscaloosa against Duke on August 31st. Stop number 24 on the high school football tour checks in with the Sulligent Blue Devils. The Blue Devils have been hard at work to replace the leadership that they lost last season.
WCBI's 60 Schools in 60 Days is brought to you by Sparklight.
The Sulligent Blue Devils are ready for redemption. It was only 2 seasons ago that the Blue Devils fell just short of a state title. After losing an experienced bunch and being plagued by the injury bug, Sulligent found it hard to meet expectation. With a whole new group of seniors, the Blue Devils are ready once again to get back to work.
It's been surprisingly, better, different than I thought it was going to be, and they've really worked hard, starting, when we got done in November until now, so I've been pleased with their attitudes.
We take a lot more responsibility as a team, and we're a lot better at taking responsibility for each other and for the team as a whole. And I think we'll go a lot farther than we did last year.
We have a lot more experience this year than we did last year. Last year, it was all kind of new. We all just moved up. So this year we know what it tastes like to win, and we don't want the bitter taste of losing in our mouth.
The restoration process for Sulligent is in full effect. 7 starters return on each side of the ball for the Blue Devils. The team says that the biggest factor that will separate this year's team from last is a presence of new leadership.
Well, if you get everybody ready for the game, all hyped up, then they're going to play well. If you make them think they're good enough to win that game, they're going to play good enough to win that game.
Everybody gets along, we're all communicating, we're always on each other's back and helping each other out, picking each other up.
They've done a good job this spring. We had a good spring. Leadership was really good this spring, and we had a good showing in our spring game.
The Blue Devils have been holding their heads up high with help from Merchant's continuous motivation.
We just try to get better each day. We focus on Sulligent. We don't focus on our opponent. We just focus on ourselves and try to get better each and every day. And of course, we watch film and try to see what mistakes we made, and we just get better from there.
He just always stays on our back and always lets us know we're not going to have a season like that again.
Waking us up at 6 a.m. to come here work out for about 2 hours, getting us ready for the season, getting us strong.
Sulligent has been going hard at summer workouts, all in hopes of setting a tone on that very first Friday night.
Setting our point, showing we can do be more capable of what we can do than last year, showing that we put our minds so we can do it as a team.
We had a bad year last year, but that's in the past, and they don't know what's going to hit them this year.
A new season begins for Sulligent when they have their first matchup against Barry Fayette on August 23rd. Reporting with Sulligent on the high school football tour, Courtney Robb, WCBI Sports.
60 Schools in 60 Days with Sulligent High School was brought to you by Shop and Save, Vernon Dental Clinic, and Alpha Agent Alicia Clark.
That's it for sports. We'll have the last look at your forecast when we come back after the break. Stay with us.
An Army vet hopes his walk across the country will call attention to military suicides. Jimmy Novak is trekking 3,000 miles across the U.S. 22 miles at a time. We caught up with Novak in Amory today. He started in Washington State on March 22nd. He plans to end his walk in Florida at Disney World on August 22nd. Now that number 22, it does have a meaning. Novak says 22 is the number of vets that commit suicide every day across the U.S.
I myself have struggled with suicidal thoughts, so now that I'm retired and I've sought some help and I'm in a better place physically and emotionally than I used to be, I'm out trying to just raise awareness about the problem.
I think he's resting in Amory tonight. His next stop is in Sulligent, Alabama.
Oh, and it is a hot walk out there right now, Scott, and even the next few days, too. Plenty of heat, plenty of humidity. A few storms to help cool it down, but the heat index will be a big problem going forward for the next few days, maybe over 105. Rain chances go up a little bit this weekend, especially early next week, too, with a cold front coming on in. And we're advertising a low of 66 next Tuesday night. If that verifies, it's going to be a nice little change of pace.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
It's a long ways away. Let's hope.
Hope and pray. All right, thanks, Keith. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.